I would like to welcome everyone here today and our viewing audience to the September 12th meeting of the City of Davenport Zoning Board of Adjustment. Your participation in city government is appreciated and welcome. If you have a mobile device, please turn it off. It may interfere with the room's electronics. My name is Jim Reistroffer, Chairman. To my immediate left is Tom Quinn. To my immediate right is Carrie Strahal, and to my far right is Judith Lee. Is it on? Okay. There we go. Staff present is Brandon Milton and Attorney Mallory Hoyt. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is a 5-member board established by the state of Iowa. We are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by City Council to serve without compensation for a 5-year term. The board meets twice a month to hear appeals involving hardships for strict application of the current zoning laws. We also grant special uses and rules on administrative appeals. Is there any corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? I see none. Can I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's passed. Old business. I see none. And we have new business. A request HV 1914 of Randall and Mary McDonald at 1645 West 12th Street for a hardship variance to allow a detached garage, accessory building, and swimming pool to be located in the front yard. The property is Zone R-MF Multifamily Residential Zoning District. Section 17.09.030.A.4c of the Davenport Municipal Code reads, no structure can be located in the front or corner side yard unless specifically allowed by this ordinance. Is the applicant here? Oh, I'm sorry, staff, excuse me. Brandon? Yeah, you want to present the...
Brandon Melton with Community Planning. So here's the general configuration of the lot. You can see the existing structure, the proposed swimming pool and garage. Just sort of the elevations for the garage structure. The Dr. Kuno's Truck House is located in the Marycrest College Historic District. It was reviewed by HPC and on August 13th, and they recommended that the board approve the variance as shown on the diagram. So this gives you an idea of sort of the hardship imposed on the property just based on where the primary structure is sited. The front and side corner side yards are the yellow, which would be unbuildable for them in this case. And then the rest of it is there's a lot of topography there, some steep hills towards the back of the property that would make it difficult to develop. So the blue area is really where you see it for a usable area for structures. In the backyard, as the code reads. So here's a view from 12th Street to give you a sense of the scale of the property and what you would be seeing from the public right of way. So in our staff analysis that we go through, would this result in a hardship unless specific relief was requested? And you can see the analysis there that yes, we believe that it would be, that there's not a lot of room to do the accessory structures in. For the physical surroundings, I noted the topographical challenges and where the house is sited, the historic home. So that would contribute to a hardship on that count. And then for that reason, we see that the property is uniquely configured. So would it alter the essential character of the locality? Staff's opinion is says no, it's far enough back, set off the right of way that we wouldn't really see it as a changing the character of the neighborhood, and HPC agrees with that assessment as well. So the recommendation, we request achieves consistency with section 1714.060 of the Davenport Municipal Code, and staff recommends approval of HV 19-12 in accordance with the submitted renderings. Any
Any-
questions for me?
Does any members got questions of the staff? Judith?
Is this a private residence?
I believe so.
Is that what it's used for now? And I also saw in your staff write-up that it has been approved by the Historic Commission,
Yes.
and they recommend approval of the ZBA for this proposal. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm gonna get fired. You want to give us your name, sir?
Randy McDonald,
Okay, you want to present your case?
pardon me.
You want to present your case to us?
Brandon, I thought, did a pretty good job. It's a big lot, but it's an unusual lot. The way it falls off in the backyard. Goal with the house is to bring the house. I want people to come onto the property and think it's 1917. So I really don't want them to see the garage until I want the house to be shown or seen before you see a garage. So when you pull it, the driveway is 150 feet long, 175 feet long, and you're viewing the house the whole way up. You won't see the garage, until you turn a corner. So really put a lot of thought. Point of all of that is just put some thought into the location on the lot of the garage, trying to match the house, the brick, put a hip roof on it, match the shingles that are on the house to make it look like it was built when the house was built. The garage that's there was added 10 years after the house. They didn't match the brick. And it shows as, you can tell it was added, before the house. And I guess I kind of want that to look like that was added. The new garage has always been there with the house. So, and then the pool, again, there's on the east side, there's an original fountain, which would be a possibility for a pool or the garage. But I don't want to tear out a fountain that's original to the house to put in a garage. It never even crossed my mind, but that would be one of the only other spots to put it. And I want to restore the fountain, get it working again, and again, have that be a feature of the house. So.
Is there any questions from the board? Judith?
Could you do me a favor, sir? Does he have a pointer?
Just my finger. Do you want
Well,
me to go
no,
to
just so, because you have to stay at the
Oh, okay.
microphone.
So you want to go back to,
No, you're good. There we go.
so this, the red. So,
So if you would just do me a favor, because it's opaque, do me a favor and show me where the driveway is and just what you described, if you would
yeah,
just point it
can
out,
we
please.
get to the other slide? Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
So that yellow opaque area was basically through there. So, again, it's from the opposite side of my driveway, I step to the fence. It's about 250 feet to the fence. It's another 15 or 20 feet to the street. So it's almost 300 feet from my front door to the street. So there's a set of columns here that were an original gate. So you come in off of 12th, off the division. Putnam Museum is over here. So you drive all the way up, and all this way up, you can see through all these trees at the house. And as soon as you pull onto the property, the house really has a very commanding presence, and I want to maintain that. And you turn the corner, and then when you get to about this point, you'd start to see the garage. The pool, here there's, I want to use the existing garage as I'm going to call it a pool house, but there's a bathroom. The garage has, all utilities run to it, so really more of a dressing room for the pool. And then there's a big parking area right in here. That fountain is right in this area. And then the property line comes this way, turns here, and then comes back all the way down to, there's some apartments back before, Forest Grove Apartments, I think is what they're called, is back behind me. So the lot is 500 feet deep. Most of it's in the front yard. And my backyard is Division Street in grass. So from accessibility to it, extremely limited. The most logical, anyway, there it is. The most logical and best location is, again, where we proposed it to be, right here. And I think once it's all finished, I'll come back and show you the pictures if you approve it. Does that help?
Yes, it does very much, because this is a very unique situation for a front yard.
Yeah,
And so it'd be
the
very
original
different
garage
than
is
what the,
grandfathered in. I
Yeah.
understand that, but
Yeah.
it's just, I'm
yeah, it's very different than what I think the zoning code was considering with not
Sure.
putting things in front
sure.
yards.
Typically, your front yard is 30 feet to the street, maybe,
Yeah.
or whatever. If it's 50 feet to the street, now you want to fill half of it up with a structure. I'm barely encroaching. Half of the garage is behind the house, and half of the garage is in front. The pool, again, would be in the front yard, but when your front yard is 300 feet by 300 feet, I've got a football field and a half for a front yard. And I want to take up, 1,000 square feet with a garage and, 400 square feet with a pool or whatever that would be. It's
And it's not visible from Division Street, if I understand.
not at all. No, that
Yeah.
hill, again, Division Street, if you've driven up, cleaned up the Division Street side of it, and planted no-mow grass, so there's minimal maintenance over there. Left most of the trees that were, those that were dead and standing have been cut down. Didn't stump them to keep the roots there just until the grass took hold and that kind of thing. So we're very conscientious about what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's a beautiful home, and we're trying to bring it back to its glory and do it correctly.
This might be, is this thing working? It might be a question for city staff rather than Mr. McDonald. Was there any negative feedback received at the public hearing? Positive or negative, I guess?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of this request? I guess seeing none. Is anybody in the audience opposed to this request? I see none. Applicant, you got any final comments you'd like to make before we vote on this? Okay, okay. Any board discussion?
I just want to say that the fact that the Historic District Commission approved this and recommended is very strongly in favor.
Well, can I ask for a motion?
Move to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second?
Is this a voice vote? Okay.
Lee,
Yes?
Strayhall,
Yes.
Reistroffer,
Yes,
Quinn.
Yes.
your motion's been approved, or your project, okay. Well, our second item on our agenda is the request of HV 19-13 of Shauna Smith on behalf of RAH Partnership, Inc. at 4756 Elmore Avenue for a hardship variance to exceed the maximum size for a wall sign. The property is Zone C3, General Commercial Zoning District, Section 17.120.060.1.4 of the Davenport Municipal Code reads, for a structure that contains multiple tenants, each tenant that has an exterior business facade area is permitted a total wall sign area of 1 square foot per linear foot of business footage, or 40 square feet, whichever is greater, along the individual frontage. Okay, staff.
All right. So here's the drawing that was provided for the sign application. You can see these are the two signs. They add up to, I believe, so they add up to 76 square feet. Because the frontage is less than 40 square feet, that means that their maximum sign area would be 40 square feet. So it would be going into the All About Eyes. I put this in here mainly to compare to, the other businesses in this strip mall, just to give you a sense of the scale, and then compared to what we have here, in the analysis will show we think that that's, in scale with the surrounding signage. So we denied that initial that sign application. So what we, as far as if this is a, is a hardship, if we strict application of the ordinance, staff's opinion that there would be a hardship for the owners. They would need to purchase new signage in addition to signs they had already purchased. Staff recognized that per the hardship variance application, the signs were purchased based on approval granted by city staff of architectural drawings, which included scaled signage. Under normal circumstances, staff would put some kind of a note in there indicating that a sign application would be required in addition to these architectural plans. To my knowledge, this didn't occur. We don't feel that there's any unique physical characteristics of the site that would constitute a hardship, nor is it uniquely configured. And the essential character of the area would not be significantly altered, as it's primarily surrounded by higher intensity commercial uses. So the request does not achieve consistency with section 17.14.060. However, should most city staff recognizes that the signs were purchased based upon approval granted of those architectural drawings. So staff does recommend denial of this application, but if the board does choose to approve, Staff advises to make the approval subject to the condition that if signage approved by this variance is removed, any replacement signage must conform with the then current code requirements.
Any commissioners would like to ask staff?
If I understand right from reading the staff report, the signage is that's required by the franchise itself, the Dairy Queen franchise?
I would defer to
Okay.
the owners to clarify
Have
that.
there been any comments for or against by the owners of the building, the adjacent businesses?
We haven't received any.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
my understanding is, so the applicant. The applicant has applied for a general building permit. They got the general building permit and then came back later and found out that the signage wasn't compliant with the city ordinance.
Correct.
That's why we're here to decide.
The building permit included architectural drawings that had scaled signage in it. So when we approved that,
Yeah.
they took that as the nod to, that the signage would be okay. It wasn't until after, we informed them that they needed a sign application that we reviewed the signage and indicated that it would not meet the code requirement.
So the applicant purchased the signs prior to having a sign permit in hand.
Correct.
Could the hardship actually be that the signage required by the franchise actually doesn't comply with city ordinance? Would that be more the hardship here?
Not, I don't know what signage they have to present. I would imagine I believe that the design has to be what the corporate indicates. I don't know about the scale, if it's scalable to different communities. I would imagine it would be, but I'll leave that to the applicant to.
And when the city issues a building permit, is there any kind of caveat that says, is there any kind of, I don't know, is there any kind of disclaimer on there?
Fortunately, the building department operates up in Public Works, so the issuance of building permits, I'm not familiar with what the applicant actually receives on those permits, what information, so I can't speak to that.
Tough one.
Thanks, Brenda.
Am I recognized?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would suspect, and maybe I'm wrong, but that building was probably already there, and they are renting it from a landlord, I assume, that owns the entire strip
Yeah, I
mall.
believe it's a multi-tenant structure. I'm not sure what the specific agreement is with that, with the building owner.
So when they came in to talk to you, they talked about, here's what we want to do with a building that probably already exists?
I'm not sure who they talked to. I'm not even really sure if they talked to individual planners. Maybe if Matt knows that, he would chime in. But they probably spoke with the building department and provided those plans because it was a building permit. Those plans are submitted through our electronic planning system. So we then review those plans from a planning perspective. As I indicated, normally staff would say at that point, additional a permit application, a separate permit application would be required for signage. To my understanding, that did not occur in that plan review.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
So Brandon, the hardship is purchasing more signs. That's kind of what the,
Correct.
okay.
Smaller signs, am I correct?
Smaller signs if their request is denied.
I'm sure I'll get this answer with the franchisee when he comes or she comes up here. Would that stop the deal with,
That would be a question for the franchisee.
okay, yeah, I'll ask.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
The applicant want to come up to the podium? Give us your name, please.
Hey there. Shauna Smith.
present your case.
Okay. So, we currently lease the property on the left that used to be the All About Eyes. The construction is actually finished. We're set to open, hopefully in the next couple days. We submitted our local architect, Greg Gowie, submitted the plans to the city. The city there approved the plans. I've since talked to Ryan Resnick from the city, and he did specify that, or he did state to me that they made an error, that they should have specifically put on there that the plans were approved with the exception of the signage. At that time, we did order the signs once the plans were approved. The signs were shipped to us to a local sign company for install, and at that point is when we found out that the signs were not up to code. There's 2 signs. It's not up there, but I have pictures of it. There's 2 signs. There's a Dairy Queen sign, and then there's a Grill and Chill sign. Oh, thank you. And we're currently the only Dairy Queen in the Davenport, Iowa, Quad City area to have food. Everyone knows Dairy Queen for their ice cream, which would be the logo of the Dairy Queen sign. But the Grill and Chill, we spent significant amount of money to have the food aspect brought to the Quad Cities, and so we feel like that is definitely part of the signage that we're going to need to kind of tell people that we also have food. So those 2 signs kind of go hand in hand. They're 2 different physical signs, but we do believe, and Dairy Queen recommends that we have both of those signs. Ederly.
Thank you.
The hardship, I guess the hardship is the signs were purchased. We have checked as soon as we found out. We checked whether those could be returned. They are not. It's not as though we can return them back to the sign company and they can use them at a different Dairy Queen. They're kind of ours to keep. I'm sure we'd have to come back down here if we wanted to put them on our garage, but otherwise they would just be trash, and we would have to purchase new signage. I think that's it.
Thank you. Is there any questions the commissioners have of the applicant? Okay. I have a question.
Okay.
You purchased these signs, my guess.
Yes.
They're a requirement from your franchise, whoever you get your okay to have a.
Correct. They actually do the drawings. I mean, layman's terms. I mean, they do the drawings and submit them to us, and we submit them to a local contractor.
And your signs are here. Am I correct?
There.
Okay, and you purchased them.
Yes.
A lot of money.
Yes.
Okay, and somebody made a mistake.
Yes.
It wasn't you.
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're the people. I mean, that's part of our frustration in the line of how we do things. We've owned a business in Davenport where we had a current Dairy Queen up on 53rd Street. We've been there since '99. We've been here 20 years. In the long line of people that we went through all the processes with, nobody is really willing to take blame for it. The city, Ryan finally did say that kind of the buck stops there. They should specify on there that the plans are approved with the exception of the signage. But unfortunately, we are the ones that hold the bill of it.
So anyway, you paid for them already.
They are paid in full.
Okay. And the installation,
Yes.
you paid for. Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Any other questions that? None? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of this request? You want to present your name, sir?
Yep. Hi, I'm Doug Jarvis, and I'm with Acme Sign, and I'm kind of the bad guy. They shipped the signs into us, and when they got to us, then was first I'd seen the drawing and the size of the sign, and I applied for permit, and we knew they were too big. What was there before was All About Eyes, and the All About Eyes signage was bigger than this current Dairy Queen stuff. And also, currently, there's a barber shop that's next to Dairy Queen, and their signage actually overhangs Dairy Queen space. So it's kind of like the strip center was there before, and there's signs and there's buildings and stores there. So we don't feel that they're out of line in wanting to do what they want to do.
We got any, commissioners, you got any questions for Mr. Jarvis?
And it sounds like you say you're the bad guy.
Well,
but
I'm
actually
the one
you-
that I'm
I
the one
know.
that told him.
I wanted to say that you identified there was a problem, and then you went through the
Yeah.
process.
I was
So,
making light of it. So
I know. I just
they
wanted to
know,
give you
so.
some credit for doing that. You could have just brushed it under the rug and hoped it worked. So thank you.
Tom?
Question for staff. I mean, it says the hardship is based on, well, we bought some signs, now we gotta buy more signs. Whether or not whoever made the mistake, mistakes happen, right? I mean, it seems to me the hardship is such that the facade of the building is not large enough to accommodate the signage that the tenant needs. So I guess I'm struggling with it. I mean, if we go strictly by the letter of the law here, I mean, it's easy to deny it, but I mean,
And that's
Yeah.
why staff had to recommend
Yeah.
denial, that it does not meet the code to the letter. There aren't really any unique aspects to the property that that would keep it from keep them from requiring them to have larger signage, I guess. So we recognize that there will be a financial hardship for the applicant. However, we can't recommend approval. I also noted that some of the points that were made was that it's not really out of character with the rest of the strip center. That's correct. We recognize that as well. So that's why we made the recommendation that we did. I guess for as far as physical dimension goes, yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily the hardship that the build. I guess I'm not quite sure how to respond to. If it's the building that's large or the financial hardship. I guess you could look at it either way. That they don't have a large enough building to facilitate the signage that they purchased.
well, maybe a question for Mr. Jarvis. I mean, signs are customizable, right? I mean, or is it one size fits all? If you order a sign from Dairy Queen, this is what you get.
There's two suppliers for Dairy Queen, and
Yeah.
I'm just the
Doug,
in person.
Doug, you want to come up to the podium?
It's being taped, so that way
Yeah.
There are two suppliers for Dairy Queen signs. I am just the local guy here that in turn puts some of the national company signs up. Now, personally, I don't think that, granted, you have a zoning ordinance now that's allowing so much square footage. However, it was not the owner's fault. If anything, I think it was the city's fault for letting it go by. They did their due diligence. It's not like the sign's overbearing on the building. If it was overly huge, I would say something that's overly huge. And I think that the initial company that drew it up, and I think Greg Gowie, when he drew it up on the building, would have said to him, "Hey, this doesn't look good, or this doesn't look right. It's too big." I don't know if that completely answered your question.
I guess the question was, can signage that looks like that be manufactured to fit, to work with the
You
ordinance
can-
as? you know what I mean?
You can get it, you can do you can.
It's
do anything you
customizable.
want. You can do
Right.
anything you want.
Right.
You could get something that's 1 foot by 2 foot if that's what you wanted to do.
Okay. No, thank you. I
Yep.
understand.
Not for you. Thanks. I don't know if you can say there's a mistake made. There's responsibility on both parties for this. Keep in mind that every time you change something like that, we have rules and regulations for signs for a reason. Every time you change something like this, you open up a can of worms because everybody comes back. Everybody says, hey, you did it for somebody else. So you need to keep your vision straight, understand what you're going to vote for here. So just keep in mind that we have sign regulations for a reason.
Well, I forgot one thing. Is there anyone in the audience opposed to this application? Seeing none. Applicant, got any final comments?
Yes, actually. I just wanted to point out, because I did forget. I don't know if this works. Or if I even need it. What do I push? The red line? Okay. This entire location here in the drawing is our square footage. Okay. This section right here, it looks, from the drawings from my eyes, if I was to see that, it looks like a different tenant in the building. It's called Sports Clips. Their sign was approved by the city to be over our actual business facade. So this right here is our business, and Sports Clips sign is right there. So, yes.
Can you go back? There's a couple other pictures that might help you explain that better. Back or forward?
I don't. Just go right, left on the arrows. Oh, okay.
Probably to the right.
Yes, okay, this is a perfect example. So here's Sports Clips, their signage. Their actual building frontage is in my little square here. This part right here is ours. So that was a source of issue for us in purchasing the property as well, or leasing the property as well, because at the time the city approved that. I personally think that it looks better. I think they would have to have a smaller sign. I mean, to your point of the city changes the ordinance all the time. At that point, it must have been changed. All About Eyes sign had to be under a different ordinance than what's currently. It was my understanding that it just changed in January. So if I had brought this back to you last year, then there might not have been an issue.
Okay,
I just wanted to point that out.
thank you.
So your storefront is only 40 feet long? Because it would seem longer than that looking at this picture.
Between 55 feet long is our store.
Sir, if you have any comments,
I'm her husband.
why don't you give your name?
I'm Mark Smith. I'm the owner as well. Yeah, so the measurement, which one's the?
Red line.
The measurement is from here, our storefront is from here all the way to here. Almost a third of their Sports Clips. So that is we have seating right here, right? So our storefront is actually from here. If I consider it a storefront, I don't consider our storefront only from here to here. We have seating over here. People actually can sit here and look out. So to me, our storefront is from here all the way over to here. So I don't know if we're just judging it from here to here. I'm not sure how that is. So yeah, so their sign is 2/3 is over them, is 1/3 over us. In fact, if you were sitting here eating a hamburger, you'd look up if there was an open ceiling and see their Sports Clip over your head. So that's kind of where it's, like you mentioned, Tom, it's longer than 40 feet. It's the extension of the entire. We're the second biggest of the strip center there. Obviously, Men's Warehouse is bigger than us. So we're this entire clear area here. That's why it's kind of gray, like in January or whatever when it was changed. Well, these guys, they're back old school, and so they kind of affected the look of how this would look if it was new school. It wouldn't be, I don't think they would have this big long sign over our spot. And plus, the building design is kind of meant like that too. So
The Dairy Queen's just under 40 square feet.
So what do you think your store frontage is from end to end?
well, it's 55 feet from here to here. Well, I've measured it, and so the Dairy Queen logo here is 40, and then the Grill and Chill is 36. So if it were to be stacked, then the Dairy Queen logo would sit here, and the Grill and Chill logo would be right under it, and instead of being long ways like that. So it could be stacked like this instead of being like this. And then it would look they're symmetrical then. It looks like it fit right inside of what is, like kind of how the Men's Warehouse is over there. How it's stacked, it would be stacked like that. Dairy Queen, Grill and Chill. So it's symmetrical to each other. We're not going from, with the Dairy Queen, and then it doesn't go into where it hits Sports Clips. So it's not like Dairy Queen Sports Clips. It's not like a one business. So it totally fits inside of the spot here, and it totally symmetric to each other. They're just one sits here and one's under here instead of being, straight across the board.
Okay.
So that's why this is kind of a unique situation as far as how the signage sits out between these four businesses.
So if it's 55 square feet, then if I read the ordinance correctly, you'd be allowed 55 square feet of signage, or it says, or 40 square feet, whichever is
55
greater.
Across the front here, 55 feet right across the front. The square footage of the building's 2,650 is what our rectangle is, or whatever, or square.
Who calculated the size of the signs? Is that, we're saying it's 76 square feet?
That came off the drawing from the manufacturer.
Okay. So even with the 55 feet, we're still 20 square feet over the limit.
But again, if it were to be stacked, then, it visually, would look like it fits in with the rest of the, I keep doing that. With the rest of it would match Men's Warehouse perfectly. Because right now, I think the two signages alone, were over $5,000 plus shipping. Well, just the two. Total package is over 12 grand. So then we're over 5,000 plus installation, because we have to take down the Dairy Queen sign, and then plus order again. So there's another. So we're in the range of $15,000 for signage by the time all this is said and done. If it's not approved. Plus, we can't open without signs, or we would be open without signs.
Okay.
But yeah, we are at Dairy Queen Grill and Chill. See, that's part of the franchise. It's not just Dairy Queen. Our franchise says Dairy Queen Grill and Chill. Back on the 53rd Street store, it was so long ago, we officially weren't really even part of Dairy Queen. We were owned by, it's called a territory operator, so I don't know if you guys remember. And I know I have one customer here that would remember. The logo was here, just a Dairy Queen, like old school. It's a Dairy Queen. Well, Grill and Chill wasn't even existed back then. So now Dairy Queen Grill and Chill is the franchise. It's not just Dairy Queen anymore. So they have to both be there. So that would be our recommendation, is if we could stack them just like Men's Warehouse did, and not this visual, this big long stretch isn't feasible, or would not look right. But stacking them would indeed fit exactly into what this looks like. I don't think anybody driving by would even, it matches straight across.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any board discussion further? Judith?
I'm normally pretty hard-nosed about supporting the code. the new code. And I think it's a very good code. However, with that said, this is on Elmore. The way that the strip mall is configured, and the way the sign is for the clips, you really wouldn't, to keep it balanced, you know, I agree with him. Keeping it on that raised facade, even though he owns further over, to me makes sense. It was an oversight, and probably didn't even think to ask about it until the sign person said, "Oh, I do signs, we need to ask." I think the city has, recognizing that this would be a non-conforming use, I think the city has a very good condition. You know, if you folks leave that, it turns into something else, then they have to match. And that it'll look nice in the strip mall. And $15,000 for as part of a franchise it's real money. And I understand that's not one of the points of a hardship variance, but because of the oversight and the timing, I would tend to lean towards approval.
Any further?
Procedural question, there's four of us, being up in a 2-2 tie, how does that move forward? Or does the chairman not vote?
That would be a denial.
That would be
A tie would be a denial.
So a tie is a denial.
Yeah, you would need 3 people to have it succeed.
Okay.
Doug, I have a question from you. You want to come up? You in good faith got from this franchisee a request for signs at this location, am I correct?
It was actually,
Sent to you.
was it after I got the signs, or was it like the day before that it shipped in? It was like,
Okay.
and they were already ordered, and either they were on the freight truck, and they were at my place, a day or two after, or they came in at the same time, and then I asked them for the drawings. They were
Okay.
great. I didn't have the drawings or whatever when they came in anyway.
As a professional, you got a permit.
Yeah, I went and applied for permit.
Was it issued?
What?
Was the permit issued?
No.
Okay. Did they give you?
I will say that, this is previously, that this hiccup has happened to other people where, signs on buildings, the architectural drawings are submitted on the building plans along with pylon signs or locations. And the end user, if they're not real familiar with what's going on, they think that everything's approved as is. And I'm not saying that the city is telling them that the signs are approved, but that's kind of, if they're new to the game, that seems to what happens sometimes.
Okay. Well, thank you for your input. Okay. Again, any, yeah, come on. You want to give you?
Randy Young, I'm with American Dairy Queen. I'm a corporate guy. I actually just came into town to help them with their opening and whatnot. And actually, these folks have invested a lot of money in moving their location and hopefully opening something really nice. And when I came up and saw the signs the first time, and they're like, the signs aren't approved, they're too big. And I'm like looking at them and like, what's wrong with it? And I think you guys had mentioned they're not out of character with the rest of the strip center. So I wanted to kind of add my 2 cents worth and say, no, they are really not out of character with the rest of the strip center. I think they look very proportional with the rest of everything. And it would create some hardship with the investment that they've got with their existing business.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Again, any board members have any questions for this gentleman? Okay. Well, I'd ask for a motion.
I move to approve HV 1913 with the condition that if signage approved by this variance is removed, any replacement signage must conform to the then current code requirement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Call for a vote.
Lee,
Approve?
Strayhall,
No.
Rice Strawford,
Yes.
and Quinn.
Can I get a clarification? If I say yes, I'm voting for denial?
If you are saying yes, so the motion was to approve the variance as requested. So if you say no, then it would be denied because it would be a 2-2 vote, and when it's tied, it's the motion would be struck down.
I guess I'd like to vote in favor of the motion that was made.
So if you vote in favor of the motion that was made, the variance would be granted.
Right.
That was as requested.
Yeah.
With the condition.
Yeah. That's what I want. I just don't know how to say yes or no.
So I think if you want them to be happy, you would say yes.
Yes. Oh, that was a tough one.
Is there any other?
I'm Matt Flynn, I'm the planning manager. I just wanted to make a couple comments since the casework is over. First of all, the last case certainly had some extenuating circumstances, but clearly a process that permitted a staff error, a permit issue in there does not warrant a variance process on itself. And I know that board member Quinn mentioned the public hearing. I just want to remind the board and people watching that the zoning board of adjustment does not hold public hearing, so we have a public process where we notify property owners within 200 feet. And starting now that they have come in, we're now going to be posting signs on the properties where special use requests and hardship variances are requested. And just a reminder, remember that the microphone is the legal record of these proceedings. So if we're not getting everybody's voices recorded, that could be problematic and can make sort of challenging for you. The other alternative would be to hire a court reporter to do that, and that would be quite expensive. Just a few reminders. Thank you.
Second?